afternoon. Well, actually, good evening, folks. It's been quite a day here at Good Natured World headquarters. They had me going in different directions today, and you know how that can confuse a mind like mine. But I think we've got everything settled in for the evening. We've got lots and lots of nature news that I'd like to share with you. So why don't we go ahead and get started? I've got our slideshow lineup. We're going to do the Google Photos format again since nobody's had any major objections to it. And it sure makes it a lot easier to get things loaded and keep things current too. So bear with me for a second. We'll get our screen share going and we'll get this show on the road. Right. I'll go here and here. And we'll start right. No, we won't start there. Hold on. We'll start here. So we're actually going to start tonight's program with where we left off last week. I was hoping to get out to the Potawatomi veranda again this evening, but it was just it's a little chilly out and it was kind of breezy. I'm also, one of the things I was doing today, I'm making video tape. There's no such thing as videotape anymore, is there? Making videos of the preschool teachers over at Potawatomi. So most of my equipment, including the tripod that I use for Good Natured, is set up over there right now, indoors. And I wanted to, it just made it easier to come back here to the office and reflect on our visit last week. So I don't know if I don't think I panned the camera at all over to the activity that was going on next to me as we visited during last week's Good Natured Hour. But there was this very busy spider. You can see her here spinning this orb-shaped web. I'm going to try again. It didn't work last week, but I'm hoping the signal is stronger here now that I'm indoors to try and show you a video. Yeah, here we go. So this lady was working most of the program on spinning her web. I was intrigued by the shape of her abdomen. Oh, look there, she caught some midges over there on the left. The shape of her abdomen isn't like the other orb weavers that we usually see. The other orb weavers we usually see in this area, they don't usually get to a noticeable size until later in the summer. I'm kind of thinking this is an orchard orb weaver. The shape of the abdomen was what I was going by. It's not a very scientific way to do things, and there could be other groups too. But within the orb weavers, it just didn't seem like there were that many options. It was hard to see any markings on her because she, as many wise spiders will do, she put her. I wonder what that was. I'm here by myself. She's building her web right next to a light source. So lights draw insects, and insects are what spiders need. You notice I keep saying she. I have a feeling this is a female. The males don't typically spend much time spinning webs. Their main objective is to head out and find females. So the females are the one with the heavier body and the more advanced web spinning skills. So what she's doing, and it's a little hard to see, but she's working. You can see it. Here, watch her rear legs. She's pulling silk from her spinnerets, which are at the tip of her abdomen. And at this stage of the game, she's laying down the spiral part, the circular part of the web. She's already put out the rays that are the structural parts of the web, and then the spiral part are the circular parts of the web. That's the sticky part. That's what helps trap and catch the prey. So I think I put my guess on the species. Yeah, Leucauge venusta. That's just a guess. but I was curious to see what her progress was this week. Maybe we'll get back over there next week and see what's up there on the veranda at Potawatomi. But I noticed her, as I was setting up and as I was taking the equipment down last week. I also noticed as we wrapped up last week's program that there was a spider that was hanging out on my keyboard, and so I was very careful. I didn't want to squish it. I didn't want to ruin what I suspected was his chances at getting over to the female. And I saw it then leave the keyboard and walk across the table, so I thought I was safe. Well, I took this video of the female spider, and then I went back to my keyboard, and in the dark I kind of wiped my hand across the mouse pad. You can probably guess where this is going. I squished hold on, there we go. I squished him. So I think this might have been the male counterpart to the web spinning female. I go to such great lengths to not kill stuff, and it just about killed me to see what I'd done. For future outdoor good natures, I think I'm going to have a couple extra light sources around me so that I'm not going to do this to the spider, which then, of course, pretty much ruined the rest of my evening. Not to mention his. Anyway, so orchard orb weavers or what I think are orchard orb weavers are spinning now. The other orb weavers, the Araneus genus, there's another one, Larinoides, that we start to see a little bit later on in the summertime. As I notice those, maybe we'll take some videos of their work as well. Okay, so couple nights later, I think this was Thursday evening, I was doing some nighttime gardening. This was after dark, so I'm going to say probably between 9 and 10 o'clock. I was out. I had bought some plants at a native plant sale. Thank you very much, Wild Ones. And was clearing some area of ground cover that I put in years ago. There's a plant called lily turf, which fills in wonderfully, and it makes a nice thick mat. And if that's what you're going for, it's a great non-native plant to put in. But if you want to replace it, boy, it's a lot of work to pull it out. So that's what I was doing, and I noticed a glow. And just as has happened in the past, when I saw a glow on the soil, my first thought was moonbeams. But then I thought, no, I looked up in the sky. It couldn't be that. It wasn't a glow, a reflection from the porch light or anything. This was a critter. So I fumbled around. I got my camera out. I made a quick photo, and I saw that this is not a glowing firefly larva. There's too much light. If this was a firefly, it wouldn't have these many rows of glowing segments. Took another image here, and I started getting kind of excited because we have had a little bit of information sent to me, and I did a little research on these guys several years ago. I'm pretty sure what this is, and then I took a picture with a flash so you can see. My big concern was, I still hadn't, at this point, this was 2 days later, I still hadn't quite gotten over having squished the spider on my keyboard. And my big concern was I had disturbed, disrupted, possibly injured this creature. I think he's okay, and by he I do mean, yes, it's a male. I'm pretty sure this is a male Phengodes beetle. Phengodes are these crazy looking beetles. This is a male that was found here in St. Charles a couple of years ago. Look at these antennae here. Let me see if I can zoom in. I've got to move this box out of the way. I guess that's all the bigger it'll get. So those antennae are on his head so that he can sense the pheromones of the females, which are not only flightless, they actually look like larvae their entire lives. This was a Phengodes female that was found by one of our restoration workers, gosh, going back probably 8 or 9 years at this point. Same thing, he was gardening at night and he saw a glowing object in the soil. He brought it into the nature center where we photographed it. This is, believe it or not, a mature female. She retains that larval form throughout her life, and she continues to glow throughout her life. The males, near as I can understand, they only glow in their larval state. When they get to the adult form like this, really their only objective is to try and find a female and to mate. There's the consensus seems to be that they don't even feed at this stage. The females do continue to feed. You can see by her large body, she's doing quite well. And they are predators in the soil. So they eat other soft-bodied arthropods as they're hanging out in the soil. So I would imagine in a couple of weeks, this was a photo that was taken in June of 2019. So I think we're getting to the point where these larvae, this is probably the pupal phase. What I wasn't sure about and I couldn't find any reference of was whether the larval males, if they construct any kind of a pupal case, if they build anything out of mud, because if they do, I did destroy it. And I'm going to feel really horrible about that too. But he seemed to just be hanging out there in the soil. So I covered him up, and then I knew we were going to be getting rain over the next couple of days. So then I put some of the plant material that I pulled out, I piled it back up on top of the soil. So hopefully this guy will survive. It was also a real eye-opener. I wouldn't have seen this thing at all if I'd been gardening in the daytime. And it makes me, even extra cautious. I'm always trying to, not chop up worms or anything when I'm digging. Now I got to start worrying about things that are glowing, but we can't see them in the daylight. I tell you, it ain't easy sometimes. But just be aware that there are a lot of so many connections there, not just above ground, but below, down in the soil too. All right, so this was another just astoundingly gorgeous creature that caught my eye. This was also on Thursday. I was at Hickory Knolls, and I had dropped a few items off and was going back to my vehicle and just kind of saw what this bold stripe caught my eye. This is, I believe this is some sort of aster. Whoops. There we go. Look at the colors on this thing. Now, whenever I see yellow and blue together, my first instinct is eastern tent caterpillar, but eastern tent caterpillars, one, they're a lot fuzzier, and two, they live in tents. They're one of the species of caterpillars that lives communally up in, and they spin a nest, a web out of silk, and they all hang out together in it. This caterpillar, there were actually two on this aster, and I kind of did a little poking around on Bug Guide, and what I think we're looking at here is a Haploa moth caterpillar, and I think it might be the species Reversa. Now I kind of accidentally skipped ahead, so you saw at least what one form of the Reversa adult looks like. The reason they call it Reversa is that there are some individuals of this species that are totally white. So there is some variation in the adult form, but boy, the colors on this caterpillar were just absolutely stunning. Slight amounts of little tufts of hair, fuzz on the sides, but not a tent caterpillar. The stripe wouldn't be this deep golden hue. It's a little lighter yellow, and there's a lot more hair on them. And of course, yes, they are in a tent. Haploa moths, we see them sometimes around the lights at Hickory Knoll, so I'm pretty confident on the genus. I'm just not 100% on this particular species, but the caterpillars on Bug Guide look pretty close to this. I got a text from one of our restoration ecologists, Jill. She was at her sister's house and found a very similar looking caterpillar. So I think it's sometimes when you see one, you start to see things all over. I think it's the season for Haploa caterpillars, and probably for the next few days or so, maybe up through this weekend. Then I would imagine they'll probably pupate, and then we'll see the moths a few weeks after that. Pretty cool, huh? So this was something I thought you guys might get a kick out of, and some of you might already be aware. Every once in a while, I go down to the WGN studios with the woman who's pictured here holding the milk snake. That's Jenny. She is the administrative assistant to our director here at the Park District. And we always have to check in at security. And last Friday we came in, we had 5 pillowcases with us. And the nice lady at the desk said, "So what do you got in there?" And the male security guard, he comes over and he goes, "Oh, I bet you got snakes in there." And the poor woman behind the desk, her eyes got real big, and she's like, "Oh, I'm afraid of snakes." And she told us a story about having been bitten when she was younger. And now Jenny, she this was her first time holding a snake. She had a little trepidation going into the day, but what she's holding there is Mary milk snake. Mary's an eastern milk snake, which is a native species here in Illinois and in Kane County. But Jenny was doing an awesome job of holding the snake, and found out that it wasn't really as awful as she might have feared it was. So we did a segment on trying to get the word out if you've got a pet snake that you can't keep anymore, to please don't release it in the wild. And then we gave a few tips of what to do, how to recognize exotic species in the wild, and how to work with a rescue group to get them out of the wild so that they don't harm, pass diseases onto our native snakes. That was the gist of the segment. But I have to show you the most, the coolest part of our trip to WGN was Bozo's dressing room. The producer was actually apologizing. She said, it's just we need to update, we need to clean it up. But it was just so neat. As a kid who grew up watching Bozo, as well as Ray Rayner and Family Classics, all the WGN local programming, this was just like a pilgrimage. We actually even got to use Bozo's makeup mirrors. Not that we had any makeup to put on, but and we got the snake slide out there. It was just, and we even got to see Bozo's bathroom. So that, for me, was a particular highlight of the morning spent down at WGN. Okay, so then that afternoon I went out for a walk, and I noticed that the box elder seedlings are coming up. And you're probably familiar with the saying, "Leaves of 3, let it be." Well, look what we have here. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. There's even a little bit of red color to the stem, but we're not talking about poison ivy, are we? We're talking about box elder. Actually, what we're going to do is we're going to compare and contrast the two. So, as I said, this is a box elder. Here's another view of it. I tried to open it up so you can see. So box elders are in the maple genus, and as such, their branching structure is opposite. So right here between my fingers. You can see the two leaves are coming out, and they're leaflet. They're leaves of three, so it's a compound leaf consisting of three leaflets. They grow on a stem, and they'll be directly opposite of each other. Now, this next photo, this is poison ivy. This example, it's growing in its vine form, and this is the leaves are growing rapidly right now. You can see there's the leaflets 3, 1, 2, 3, let it be. Here's one stem coming out from the vine, and then you go down a little bit, and then there's another stem coming out from the vine. So the leaflets are not opposite, they are alternating their way along the stem. This one is a little bit more confusing because it's not a vine on a tree as we expect them to be. This was growing as a clump. It almost looked like a little shrub. And look, it's growing amongst a whole bunch of other things. Here's a maple seedling, a different type of maple, not a box elder, but it's a little maple sapling coming up here. And then we got over here on the left, on the far left, and over here on the far right, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 leaflets. That's not poison ivy either. That's Virginia creeper. But then smack dab in the middle of it and probably sprinkled through, like down here in the lower right, 1, 2, 3, that's leaves of 3, that's poison ivy. And then this what looks like a shrub right here, that's poison ivy too. Now, I was with my friend Terry during this walk, and she bravely consented to pulling away some of the leaves with a stick so we could kind of see the branching, the way here's a leaf, leaflets 3 right here, and then you go up a little bit or down a little bit before you encounter the next one. So the leaflets do not grow opposite each other on poison ivy. They grow alternately. So keep that in mind as you're out and about. Let's get rid of all of that. It's doing really well right now, and it is a native plant, and it does bring several benefits to the woods that it grows in. It is eaten, but really humans are the only animals that have a problem with it. Certain herbivores will browse on the leaves. The berries are nutritious, and a lot of birds eat them. Of course, that's how we get more poison ivy spreading around, because the birds then expel the seeds from the berries, and the plants start to grow. That's also how it happens to get mixed in with a lot of other plants. So you have to kind of be vigilant if you're out and about and you see a lot of greenery down along the woodland floor. Make sure you're paying attention to the leaves and the pattern in which they grow. Right. So this was a total surprise. I'm wondering if I can flip this around here. Rotate. Yeah, that's a little bit. No, that's a different photo. Let me rotate it one more time. There, that's a little bit better. Uh-oh. So on Saturday of this past week, we had a field trip for our King County Certified Naturalist group, and they had threatened storms all day, but we got lucky when the field trip started at 9 o'clock. We were at Leroy Oaks at Creek Bend Nature Center. The skies, they weren't clear, but it wasn't raining, so we went ahead with the outdoor portion of the field trip. And we visited the pond behind Creek Bend, had a lot of fun chasing after some water snakes. We found bullfrogs, we found green frogs, we found dragonfly nymphs, and water boatmen, lots of invertebrates in that pond water. And then we made our way over to Fearson Creek. Because it had rained quite heavily the night before, the creek was pretty high, so didn't think we were going to be able to get in, and then we could hear the distant rolls of thunder, so we knew our time was short outside. But I just wanted to take a quick look at where the dam had been removed. There, for years and years, there had been a boulder, a dam constructed out of boulders behind what's now Creek Bend Nature Center, but what had formerly been a mansion for a local family. And they had built that dam to slow the water down and make kind of a broad pond-like quality to the creek that was flowing by. Anyway, we're walking towards the creek, and I look down, and this is what I see. So this is not a land-dwelling organism. This is a Hellgrammite, which is the larva of an insect called a Dobsonfly. And I don't know how it ended up on the path. It was covered in sand. So, I don't know if maybe a bird had plucked it out of the creek and then got pinched. Look at these mandibles here. It's, in fact, here, let's go to the next slide here. Here and here. Another name for the Hellgrammite is toe biter. They really can give quite a painful pinch. It was funny, when we were in the pond and we were catching snakes, I wasn't too worried if I got bit by one of the snakes, because their teeth are really short, and they're described as being like aggressive Velcro. It will puncture your skin, and you will bleed a little bit, but it's rarely is it a very serious bite. These suckers, they really hurt. They can clamp on, and they don't let go. They break the skin. So I was actually a little more leery of handling this than I was of the snakes over in the pond. So we talked a little bit about the requirements for these creatures. They need pretty clean water. When we talk about gauging the health of a stream and we look at what's living in it, this is an organism that is only found in streams that would be considered very healthy, that have little pollution and high amounts of dissolved oxygen. These insects cannot survive in dirty water or in water that doesn't have much oxygen in it. So where the dam was removed, the boulders still remain in the water, so there's lots of water bubbling over the rocks, mixing a lot of oxygen into the water. And Fearston Creek has always been one of the higher quality streams in Kane County. So we have found these from time to time. Never found one on a path. So I'm kind of thinking maybe a bird fished one out and then got pinched, or something like that happened. But anyway, I did want to show you, I didn't have this picture handy the other day, but I dragged it out for you guys. This is a male Dobsonfly. So there's 2 5/8 inches. So this is a big insect. The female doesn't have these large mandibles on the front. These they always remind me of ice tongs. In the old days when you'd have ice delivered. The male grows these long mandibles strictly for show. It's to prove his breeding fitness. It plays a role in how the female chooses a mate. She looks at how massive his big tufts might be, but they don't. They're very weak. He, like, a pinch from that, I wouldn't even feel it. The females, they don't have those big mandibles. They retain the short and powerful pinchers that we see on the larval form. So, but either way, it's a very large insect. Kind of weak flyers. They usually, when they emerge from the water, they usually don't fly too far. Sometimes they'll make it to a light source. People who live near high quality streams will sometimes find them, on their porch or patio if they've left a light on overnight. But super cool insects, and ones that we usually, they're, I don't think they're flying quite yet. The larva lives for multiple years in the water. I want to say anywhere from like 2 to 4 years. It's quite a long time, which again emphasizes the need for clean water. If something's going to be living in the water for that long, the water needs to be pretty good quality. But then they do pupate, and then they emerge and they fly and they mate. They lay some eggs, and their life cycle comes to a close. So yeah, look for these. I want to say I took this photo in late June or July. This was from several years ago. Over at, gosh, was that a Potawatomi? It was in a somewhere here around St. Charles, but really, really cool insects that start off as toe biters and end up looking pretty magnificent as adults as well. Now, this was just a little update I wanted to toss out. Remember a few weeks ago, boy, is that blurry. I had found, I was on a walk with a friend down in Batavia along the Fox River Trail on the east side, and we found all those seeds on the edge of the trail. It turns out they were the seeds from redbud pods, the redbud tree. And they look like lentils. And you know how you have to soak lentils before you cook them? Well, I've been soaking these for, going on 3 weeks now. I've changed the water several times. The first 2 times, the water within about 2 days turned a really deep, I don't know if it was blackish green or greenish black, but it was this really dark color. And now, the last time I changed the water, it's more of a tea color. I'm kind of losing my nerve. My plan was to soak these until they got soft, and then I was going to cook them and eat them and report back to you. But they've been soaking for a really long time, and they haven't gotten much softer. I did notice today they're they're actually starting to feel kind of slimy. So my plan B is to pick some of the green pods because I have read in several references that the green redbud pods are edible. They have a citrus character to them. You can treat them like pea pods, you can stir fry them, or you can eat them raw. So I'm kind of thinking this little experiment, I might abandon it. I hate to give up on something, but I also I hate giving myself a tummy ache too, but I just wanted to give you a little update of what was going on with the redbud seeds. Oh, and then this. So, I said at the beginning of the program that I've been going in a few different directions. My days this week have started off on the other side of a video camera, making these Meet the Teacher videos over at Potawatomi for next year's preschool classes. Well, today started off with a bang because this little guy actually wasn't moving at the time, was just sort of sitting quietly right in the middle of the hallway where we were going to be videoing the teachers. And I was lucky. I was with a group of very understanding teachers who actually are nature lovers themselves, and we just did a quick little lesson on this organism that I thought I'd share with you tonight. These are house centipedes, and there's some variation in how they're marked, but I believe they're all the same species, what we see in this area. It's Scutigera coleoptrata. They are from I believe it's the Mediterranean region of Europe, so they're used to a warmer climate, hence their house centipede habits here in North America. Really, really good guys to have around. I know they give a bunch of people the willies because of the way they move. Now, they are centipedes. A couple weeks ago, we talked about millipedes. And millipedes, they'll have 2 legs per body segment. Centipedes have 1 pair of legs per body segment. So 2 pairs of legs for millipedes, 1 pair of legs for centipedes. The first pair of legs, which I didn't take this at an angle where, well, you can kind of see one right here. The first pair of legs are modified into fangs because these creatures are predators. You can see they've got a long pair of antennae here that they use to sense the environment around them. I think it's the last pair of legs too. Also, yeah, look how long this one is. These serve a sensory function as well. So they've got sensors going on front and back, and they use that to hunt a wide variety of prey. Anything from cockroach nymphs to bed bugs. They'll eat little caterpillars. They'll eat moths if they're small enough. Flies. Really, really good things to have on. If you can tolerate, even if you can't tolerate them, just let them run. Really, they do not want to be seen. They live in our walls. They live in the dark depths of our basements, places that are somewhat humid. That's their best environment. I have a feeling maybe this one was out. There's been a lot of movement around in Potawatomi right now. The teachers are packing up. It's the end of the preschool year. There's always little projects going on too that might disrupt these centipedes. This one shuffled off and disappeared into the elevator shaft. So anyway, just wanted to give a little plug and 2 thumbs up for house centipedes. They really, really do a lot of good things in our domestic environments. Now, this afternoon I was out doing a senior program up in South Elgin, and I've been watching the developments of this property here. So this is on the what would be the west side of McLean Road, and I just wanted to see if I could zoom in here. There's a development going in. This was farmland. It was fallow the last couple of years, and there were some for sale signs up, so I kind of thought there'd be some changes, but I was sort of hoping the Forest Preserve might be able to acquire it. But it was a pretty big chunk of land, and I don't know what the asking price was, but it's now going to become, I think the sign said Beckett's Landing. But I just wanted to show you the first thing that goes when they start developing a chunk of land like this. This is actually a big mound right here of rich, dark topsoil. First thing they do is they scrape all of it off and they haul it away. You know, when you buy topsoil, it destroys the matrix. It removes it from the land where it developed over thousands of years. It just kind of, I don't know. I hate to see it. I know it's inevitable. Development. There's such a need for housing in the area, but I just was kind of sad to see all this work going on. Imagining all the creatures that work so hard to develop this fertile soil, and it's gonna all get carted away, and then this will all be. I think it's going to be townhomes and single-family homes, is what the sign said. Probably, within the next year or two, those will be up. So what I did then was I turned and I looked the other way to make myself feel just a little bit better, because adjoining this future development is this really cool parcel here. This is called I think it's McLean Road Fen or McLean Fen. It is a King County Forest Preserve District property. The fen itself is more towards the, would that be the, get my directions turned on, is that east or south? This is actually just a little bit north of the quarry that you see at McLean and 31. But I don't know the history of this property, why it has a paved trail going through it. It didn't really look like something the Forest Preserve would build, but I don't know who they acquired it from. Probably should have done more research on this. For local people, it's certainly worth checking out. district, Forest Preserve District restoration team has done a really nice job bringing back a lot of native plants. I'd stopped here one other time just to check out what it was. There's no sign when you pull in off of McLean. It doesn't say, it doesn't have the typical Forest Preserve District sign. There's some benches along the way that also don't look like they were put in by the Forest Preserve, but it is a super cool property. Might be kind of noisy with all the construction going on just to the north of it, but definitely worth checking out if you happen to find yourself on McLean Road. This is just north of where Stearns crosses McLean. That is all I had for this part of our chat this evening. So I'm going to end the screen share. Looks like we've got a couple of chats to get to. So let's check those out. Yes, being a naturalist hurts. It can be painful in many ways. Yeah, emotionally and physically. And chasing Paul with the snakes. Yeah, the WGN segment, I think it's online if you want to check it out. If you haven't seen it and you want a couple of laughs. Paul Conrad is a super, super nice man. He puts up with a lot of things. We've been down there a couple of times now, and but he definitely, you could tell he was just a little uncomfortable being around the snakes. And when he started to take off at the end of the segment, I really had no choice but to chase after him with the snakes I had in my hand. So did we put the Hellgrammite back in the water? Yes, we did, Sarah. So I don't know how it ended up on the path, but we walked it over. I didn't want to put it right in the rushing water that was flying over the dam, because it looked like it was in kind of a weakened state. It was still alive though, so there was a little pool that we put it in, and as soon as it hit the water, it floated down, and you could just see it was kind of like, it was almost like it was reanimating, and then it shuffled away pretty quickly, and it disappeared under a rock. So yeah, thanks for checking on that and putting a happy ending on that story. I think the Hellgrammite was going to be okay. And it sounds like you've been pinched by one before, Wallace. They really do. I would rather get bit by a snake than get pinched by one of those toe biters. Okay, so the paved trail is part of a bike path that goes along Stearns. Is it part of an old golf course, the Spartan golf course? It might be. I honestly don't know. I suppose we could look up on the Forest Preserve District website and see if because sometimes they'll publish on their website the history. So I'll see if I can look that up while we're still together here. And then it looks like we've got, Julia's got a baby cardinal who fledged too early, no tail feathers, and its parents are so attentive, feeding it on the ground. What are its chances? I've been talking to a woman, Julia, who has house finches in a hanging basket outside of her window. And she said it has been so nerve-wracking. One of the babies died in the nest, and she emailed me early one morning. She said, should I remove the baby? And before I had a chance to say, no, just leave it, the mom will figure it out, she emailed me back, and she said, oh, the mom took it away already. Who knew? I always say it's so much harder on humans to watch baby birds grow up than it is for the actual parents of the bird. It's a lot of work on their part, but I don't know. For us, we look at these fragile creatures and we think, how is it ever going to survive? A lot of birds come out of the nest early, and it's great to know that the parents are on top of it. They do need to spend some time on the ground before they can fly to build up those wing muscles. So I think as long as it's not injured, do the wings look fairly symmetrical? I mean, it's not like leaning one way or the other, is it?
It looked pretty healthy, but it looked extremely immature, and it had the sense to hide, and the parents were unbelievably attentive. It was really sweet to watch.
Good.
So I don't know if that's common or
I think it is. These nests, they accommodate the bird for so long, and sometimes it's the more adventurous birds that the fledglings that leave. Most birds have to spend some time on the ground before they get their wings. They're fully flighted, and the muscles that they need to work their wings need to develop too. Now, was it fluffy still, or
very fluffy. I think that there was an altercation. One of the babies
oh,
died. And
okay,
I'm even wondering if it could be a cowbird that they are
oh,
taking care of.
it absolutely could be. I've seen that before. I haven't seen many species rearing cowbirds, but that's one that I have seen.
Right.
And yeah, it could absolutely be that. Is the nest, do you know where the nest is? Or if it still has, like,
I did the mistake of taking the nest down, and there was a little dead one in there. And I cleared it out, and then I put it in the sun for a while to disinfect it.
uh-huh.
I don't know what I was doing. And then I gently placed it back. So who knows?
Okay. I mean, at this point, I would say if the parents are attentive to the baby on the ground and it doesn't seem injured, I would just let it play out. That the parents will guard it as best they can, and they're pretty good at defending it. Defending, they will abandon it if it looks like they're going to get taken out. Um, if a cat comes along or something. But in addition to developing its wing muscles, the baby also is working on its leg muscles so that it can at least climb up, even if it can't fly. If it can climb up in a shrub to get up out of the way of what might be trying to get it there on the ground. So, yeah, I would say at this point, it's no disrespect to cowbirds; they are native species too. But yeah, I'd say just let nature take its course. All right. It's always hard to say and hard to see, but it's usually what works out for the best. Um, Oh, Michelle, can we put our bird feeders back out? Well, you guys, I have a confession to make. I cracked under the pressure of those 90-degree days, and I put my bird bath back out. It was very stressful. I was scrubbing it out a lot, and I did take it down again for a couple days, and then I put it back out. The official date that the IDNR said to wait until was the end of the month. Um, that's the directive to wait till June 1st to put things back up. But like I said, I thought it was so hot, and we went through a dry period. I was relying on the rain. There was a lot of water droplets where birds could drink. They could even get a little wet and preen their feathers in it, but then it got dry too. So I cracked under the pressure. I did put my bird bath out for a few days. So yeah, if you want to, I mean, it's up to you. The guideline though did say to go till the end of the month. I think that's it for chats. You bet, Michelle. I just had one more thing I was going to show you. This was a week or two back. We were talking about raccoon skulls. So I'm going to show you And I tell you, 9 times out of 10, when someone brings a skull into the nature center, it's a raccoon skull. And I think, one, we have a lot of raccoons in the area, and two, they die a lot. They get hit by cars. They succumb to the many diseases that they carry around with them. Distemper is raging in central Kane County right now, so we've got a lot of raccoons going down from that. But anyway, this is what a raccoon skull looks like. Kind of a sloped character to the front of the skull. Bulbous brain case, pretty large brain case here. I believe the number of teeth is 44. And a lot of times when you find the skull, you kind of have to make up what the numbers will be. You have to do an educated guess, because a lot of times some of those teeth, oops, will have fallen out. Now, when people bring us skulls, and it turns out to be a raccoon skull, when they bring it in, they say, "Hey, I think I found a fox skull." And I just wanted to show you side by side. I'm going to hold these up here so you can see them. The snout of a fox is long and narrow, as opposed to the more blunt character of the raccoon skull. Foxes, I believe, they have fewer teeth too. Gosh, I don't have my chart in front of me, but again, a lot of times the teeth are missing by the time you find the skull. But side-by-side comparison, raccoon on the left and fox on the right. I wanted to also show you an opossum skull. I have an opossum skull at home. I thought I had one here in the office, but I will add that one to a future Good Nature, because they're super cool. They've got a ridge, a very prominent ridge that goes across the top of the skull. Raccoon and fox. Just handy things to know. All right. Anybody else have anything? Any questions? Anything you've been curious about this past week? Meredith, I'm going to look up Spartan Golf Course. In fact, let me see what came up here. Okay, so Forest Preserve's official name for that property is the McLean Fen Forest Preserve. That sounds better than the McLean Road Forest Preserve, doesn't it? And it's closed right now. It's a great place to walk your dog, according to Google reviews. Here we go. McLean Fen is a small but important wetland where hillside seeps and perched fen plant communities persist in a forgotten corner of farmland, now visible from the Stearns Road Bridge. Gentians, goldenrods, and a host of other prairie flowers add to the palette of colors here in the summer. This 3-acre wetland was almost completely lost in December of 1988 when a freight train derailed, dumping 24 carloads of soybeans. When the rail cars were dragged away from the wreckage, they were put on the fen, causing considerable damage to the fragile site. The wreckage was later removed and the wetland mitigation ensued. Although protected now, the fen is wholly dependent upon groundwater seepage and upwelling, and the life source of this wetland is threatened by urban demands for more groundwater. It says currently there's no public access, but there is a gate there now. There's just no sign. So, if it's dependent on groundwater and they're putting in this huge development to the north, it'll probably have some impact on it. So maybe you better get there while it's still flowing. The area that is the fen, there's a small boardwalk. So most of the trail through that property is paved, but there's a little wooden boardwalk when you get to the part that's especially wet, and I think that's where the fen is. And again, it's just a little bit north a little bit north of that quarry, and then even farther north is that development, Beckett's Landing, going in. There you have it. I'll see if I can find out more about the golf course, Meredith. That I'm not familiar with, but we could find out. All right. Anybody have anything else? If not, appreciate your time this evening, and maybe it'll be a little bit warmer, a little bit less breezy next week, and we can do another outside, good-natured version. Thank you so much, everybody. Have a good evening.
Thanks, Pam.
Thanks, Pam.
Bye, everybody.
Pam.
Thanks, Pam.
Thank you.